Hey, you know what's really good to eat? Fresh baked bread. That's what I'm going to talk to you about today, reading to you from Exodus chapter 25, verses 23 and 24, and then I'm going to read to you verse 30. So here we go, Exodus chapter 25. We read this. You shall make a table of acacia wood. 2 cubits shall be its length, a cubit its width, and a cubit and a half its height. And you shall overlay it with pure gold and make a molding of gold all around. Now verse 30. And you shall set the showbread on the table before me always. Before Israel left Egypt, Moses knew God wanted him to guide Israel through the wilderness and to the promised land. He didn't know God also wanted him to be a building supervisor and a furniture maker. God commanded Moses to supervise the construction of a special tent as a place to meet God and to build special furnishings for the tent. Both the tent, which was known as the tabernacle, and the furnishings were built according to a specific pattern that God gave to Moses on Mount Sinai. One of these special pieces of furniture was known as the table of showbread. Our Bible passage spells out its dimensions, roughly 3 feet or 1 meter long, 1.5 feet or half a meter wide, and a little more than 2 feet, that's 2/3 of a meter tall. It was about the size of a tall coffee table, made of acacia wood and overlaid with gold. But the most important thing about the table of showbread was not the table itself, but the bread that sat on it. As one entered the tabernacle, the table of showbread stood on the right-hand side, opposite the golden lampstand. And on this table were 12 loaves, really more like pita breads because they were flat. And this was the showbread, made of fine flour. The 12 cakes of showbread, one for each tribe of Israel, stood on the table sprinkled lightly with frankincense. Once a week, the priest put out fresh bread, and the priests were allowed to eat the old bread. You'll find that in Leviticus chapter 24. Now, the meaning and the importance of the showbread is found in the name. Literally, showbread means bread of faces. It was bread associated with and to be eaten before the face of God. F.B. Meyer called the showbread presence bread. To eat the showbread was to eat God's bread in God's house as a friend and a guest of the Lord, enjoying His hospitality. In that culture, eating together made a permanent and sacred bond of friendship. Eating the showbread in God's house was a powerful way to say, Lord, I love you, and I seek your face. I'm in your presence, and I want to be transformed by seeing your face. Now, the showbread had always to be fresh. On a regular routine, the priest took the old showbread, which had been taken from before the Lord, in order to put hot bread in its place. God wants our fellowship with Him, our time before His face to be fresh. It's as if our time with God has an expiration date, and we should never be satisfied with a stale, moldy relationship with the Lord. Everything in the tabernacle pointed to Jesus in one way or another. And Jesus identified Himself with the showbread when He said, I am the bread of life. This is the bread which comes down from heaven, that one may eat of it and not die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. As much as we need bread to survive, we need Jesus to live both now and for eternity. We must totally depend on Jesus, just as we depend on food like bread. And just as bread is necessary for survival, so fellowship with God is necessary for man. The showbread acts out the words of the Lord's Prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. Today, you can get some daily bread, some fresh bread from God. Enjoy it. It tastes really good, and it'll nourish your soul. You can receive that from the Lord today.